So Elon Musk is trying to own Twitter, huh? Interesting. I was banned off Twitter a few years ago. Around the time, it would have been 2018, around the time Fallout 76 came out. What happened was there was a female developer for Bethesda complaining that she was getting a bunch of evil, misogynist gamer hate, right? And how awful it is to be attacked for being a woman. So I responded, have you not been keeping up with the news? Have you not been keeping up with all the shady shit going on from Bethesda? I can't remember exactly what I said, but this is pretty much what I said. Have you not been keeping for all the shady shit and anti-consumer practices Bethesda has been engaging in? And then the game comes out. Not only is it really poorly fucking made, obviously, I would have run out of space at this point because this is Twitter, so I had to shorten it. But not only is the game really poorly fucking made, but it is actually bricked some people's computers. You are representing them, advertising that game, and defending them. It has nothing to do with you being a woman and everything to do with you defending anti-consumer bullshit. I got up the next morning and I was banned for hate. There we go. Fun, isn't it? In order to get my account back, I needed to apply my phone number, which I wasn't giving them. So I have been off Twitter since. And you've seen what used to be the number one social media platform, a very old social media platform at this point that has been going for a long time, has slowly been plummeting. The only people I know who still use Twitter use it to follow streamers so they know when they're streaming, or they use it to follow artists so they can commission pieces. They're the only people I know that actually still use fucking Twitter. And yeah, like if I had Twitter, or if I've been tempted to make a new account a few times just to follow a few artists to get myself a furry picture commissioned at some point, but I don't like the platform pretty much. The irony, of course, being from using Reddit recently, I've realized that YouTube and Facebook are are pretty much the best places for freedom of speech right now in terms of the mainstream. Sure, there are other websites, but in terms of the mainstream, where your voice is going to be heard by people who aren't just a bunch of clapping seals, Facebook and YouTube are your best bet. And they have plummeted in terms of freedom of speech. You know, there are so many YouTubers I watch that can't speak like fucking adults, and they have to change words in order to various other words in order to be not picked up by the automated systems. I don't do that because I don't make money out of this thing. This is purely a hobby and an outlet for me. But a lot of people, they have to talk circles around things. They have to change language in order to not be picked up by the fucking system. And it's ridiculous. It is absolutely freaking ridiculous. So, honestly, I'm rooting for Elon Musk. Because from what we've seen of this man so far, he understands internet culture, and he's a component, well, for freedom of speech. Like, he supports freedom of speech. I believe he even defined freedom of speech recently as does the website hold the ability for you to see posts that from people you don't like and disagree with, right? Something like that. That's freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is not defending speech you agree with. Freedom of speech is defending people's right, people that you do not like, their right to say shit that you do not like. That is freedom of speech. The only way to be a true supporter of freedom of speech is to support people that you do not like, their right to say things that you do not like. Because without that, we don't have freedom of speech. We have your echo chamber. You know? And Facebook and YouTube are by far one of the best platforms in terms of freedom of speech right now. But you still have to weasel your way around language. You can't be direct. You know, you have to use fluffy language, which then comes across as dog whistling. The internet used to be a wild, wild west, man. You used to be able to say whatever. It was the last bastion of freedom. But as it's become more relevant in the modern world, it's become bits of it have been taken over by various corporations. You know, it's funny how it's gone, unfortunately. And as it's become more regulated, it's become more and more like the mainstream media, more and more like television, curated, so only the right outlook is readily available. And of course, the right outlook is not often the real, the true perspective. You know, there's often a lot more, which then forces a lot of people to alternate platforms, which will then also be shut down if they become big. But the problem is, like you say, well, why are all these horrible people gathering around this website? Because that's the only place they can have a voice. People are tempered by opposition. If people can hear their own voice, but also hear stuff that they disagree with, it tempers people. This is why people are more reserved in real life. Well, that and the fact that they can see their face and they can actually be hit in real life. But people tend to be a bit more reserved in real life because it's harder to blanket statement people in reality. But no, it's just funny, man. I'm hoping he gets it. Because if Elon manages to acquire, don't get me wrong, I'm not jumping up and down, one of the richest people in the world obtaining more power. I'm not jumping up and down that. But the fact is that all of the mainstream platforms are owned by extremely rich people who give zero fucks about you and me. Doesn't matter what platform it is. So if Elon gets it, and he turns it into the first true free speech mainstream platform in years, I'm going back to that. You can bet your ass that Twitter is going to become my main social media instead of Facebook. YouTube technically, but I don't consider it social media. You know, I use it like a public vlog and an entertainment platform. I don't use it as social media. Yeah, if Elon acquires Twitter and he starts to make positive changes to it, like allowing freedom of speech, you can bet your ass I'm going there. I'd like to be able to have a communication without constantly censoring myself, constantly tipping over eggshells, making sure that I don't overly offend the person I'm talking to. Which my very existence offends people. You know, I have the sin of being born a white fucking male. And I know that alone is going to make some people think I'm a fucking racist, which is hilarious. The one group in which anyone can shit all over on any platform are white people and men. And of course, this also includes white women or black men or any other kind of woman or man if they state the wrong political opinions. Because then their minority or protected class status goes out the window, and then their wrong social opinions takes over. You know, and I'll be honest, there are certain groups I'm more bitter towards than I used to be. You know, a hell of a lot more bitter towards than I used to be. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hatred. Hatred leads to suffering. Being afraid to talk. Being so enclosed in your fear-mongering little circle of purity fucking authoritarians that you're frightened of the very people around you, not just because you might say something wrong, but because this person has the mark of the beast. They're white and male. They might attack you, and if they do attack you, they'll get away with it because they're part of the patriarchy. the evil white oppression. It's just fear. Fear-mongering. People can't see each other as human anymore. We can't empathize with each other on a base fucking level. We're incapable of it. We get filtered into these social and political groups. Who benefits from keeping the people apart? Really? Who benefits from that? Who benefits from keeping us separate and distracted and fighting amongst ourselves? Huh? How can anyone argue that that's a good thing? Because all this shit has done in recent years is breed hatred. It's not fought against it. It's not stopped it. It's fucking fostered it. What we need is a platform in which people can be fucking honest without the law banging on their door. Without being silenced. And then, after people have been allowed to do that for so much longer, we'll actually find fucking common ground. I had a back and forth the other day over an issue with someone. And there was some shade thrown at each other. I threw some at her, she threw some at me. You know, there was some spicy fucking language. But overall, she's like, you know, we probably have far more in common than you think. And I'm like, yeah, more than likely. People then tend to, once they drop the ideological lens, they'll realize that we're more alike than different. You know? And I think the phrase I used is, chances are we care about the exact same things. We're passionate about the exact same things. We just view them through different lenses, so we come up with different outcomes. You know? And once you realize that about people, if everyone realized that about each other, we could possibly learn to understand each other a little bit. But no, let's separate each other into various different groups and prejudge each other based on that. Place each other in this fucking oppression hierarchy. Absolutely fucking ridiculous. You know, and the fact is that many people have dismissed this video right away based on what I said before about, you know, white men and how we're not allowed to have a voice or say anything. Because unless it's pure, unequivocal praise for some other group. You know. It's like, and the fact is that if you listen to my videos and you listen to the kind of things I talk about, you know, you'd realize that I'm not the person that you would instantly think I was for saying that. You know? Christ, I was talking recently about a guy I was going on a community walk with, confiding in me about being the only black person in the office his entire life, pretty much. And I even said to him, like, I've not lived that. I've been white in a mostly white area for pretty much all of my life, so I have no idea what that would be like. But I can certainly empathize. I can certainly understand to a certain level, you know, as someone who is different in his own way, and I can somewhat understand how that could affect someone. Even if nothing necessarily bad happens, even if people are welcoming, there's still a level of othering. There's still a level of feeling different that comes from that. And if you feel different for so long, that can have psychological effects on you. It's easy to empathize with. Obviously, I cannot understand it to its entirety because that's his lived experience. Now, lived experience is a very wokeist modern term, but it makes a lot of sense. You guys don't know what's in my head. I don't know what's in your head. I've not lived your life. You've not lived my life. I've lived my life as an artistic person who only in recent years has started to break out his shell just a little bit. Started to become more of himself just a little bit. You know? And I have mentioned many times that I feel alien. I felt separate for a long time. It doesn't matter how welcoming and friendly people are. In my head, I still feel different. Like I can't really quite connect, you know? But at the same time, you know, that same guy said that I was extremely wise for my age. That I have this way about myself where people, obviously, you know, people are comfortable talking to. Like, at no point was this their animosity. At no point was him mentioning race an attack on me. But so often when people do mention race, it's in the guise of I'm the problem. Because I'm white, I'm part of the problem. Because I'm responsible. I have to, whip myself. I'm sorry I'm white. I'm sorry I'm male. I do not like the guy who said that. But he's right. But that conversation came after we've had a few conversations before, and he realized that I was someone he could actually talk about this stuff to, more than likely. And yeah, it has less to do about race than it does about human understanding. We don't have to be part in the same group. We don't have to have the same lived experience in order to empathize it. We need to have the same lived experience in order to truly understand it, or at least a similar one in order to understand it. But we can empathize. And that's what we've lost. That's what we've lost. We've lost that ability. Yeah, I have opinions on certain other groups that aren't necessarily favorable. Religious people, feminism, any fucking dogmatic ideology, people who deny science, but of course in recent years denying science has become a religious line. It's funny, back on YouTube, back in the day, we were arguing against religious people and how they said, oh, you just worship science, you treat science like a religion. And they were fucking ridiculous. They were batshit insane. And now we have recent events where people are like, trust the science. And then you got that guy coming up at fucking Fauci. I am the science. If you disagree with me, you disagree with science. For I am the Lord of science. I am Jesus made science. Fuck off, mate. Follow the science. The God works in mysterious ways. Science changes. Follow the science. What would Jesus do? It was said in the same fucking way, and quite frankly, when the science comes from a company that is backed by that same company, defending that same company, one of the richest companies on the fucking planet, would you trust it? Really? Really? When trusted medical journals that have existed for centuries are fact-checked by platforms like Facebook? Do you trust Facebook's facts? Really? 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 It's shit like that. Now again, I'm not anti-vax. I've got my shots. I've not got the booster. I'm still being harassed to get the booster. Every other week, I get a text message reminding me about the booster. I got a call to tell me to get the booster a few weeks ago. And when I said, oh, I'm not getting it because it doesn't prevent the spread, that's why I got the first one. I'm not getting it. I'm healthy enough. I've not got it as far as I'm aware. And if I have, and the argument that, oh, you could have got it, it didn't have any effects. What other shit am I carrying around at every given time? Oh shit, I better wear a bubble and walk around in complete plastic because God knows what other germs I'm carrying around. Ooh. Fuck off, man. We're living organisms. We're full of living organisms at every point in the fucking day. I'm carrying all kinds of shit. We all are. Do I have to be terrified of every one of them? Fuck me, man. And when I said that, she's like, do you have the flu vaccine by any chance? Oh yeah, I got that right away. Because it prevents the spread. And I've got vulnerable family members that I don't want to give the fucking flu to because it could kill them. Does that sound like something an anti-vax person would say? No. Because I'm not anti-vax and I'm not anti-science. I am anti-propaganda. I am anti-media and government control over fucking everything, including our own very lives, our freedoms. I am anti most people in my mother's life being able to actually see her go off. I'm against being able to actually see my mother go off instead of just a fucking coffin Meanwhile, Boris is partying it up. That's what I'm against. That would be something an anti-vaxxer would say in the media would tell you. Oh, this person's an anti-vaxxer. He's anti-science. Ugh. Yeah, my mother died because she couldn't get assistance. She was told over the phone she had gout. She had pneumonia. People refused to see her. She died. The lockdown killed her. COVID didn't kill her. The lockdown killed her. Because of COVID, we couldn't fucking see her properly. Most people had to wait outside. Meanwhile, hey, Boris partying it up, woo, yay! I will never forgive my government for that. I will never forgive my government for that. Australia introducing all these measures so they can control people's social media, be like attacking kids on the fucking street, like throwing people in their houses. God even knows what China's doing, but like, God, we're not even getting into what China's doing because China is a shithole and always has been. Fucking Canada, what they did with the truckers and people who supported them, freezing their fucking assets. Come on. The government will never let a good crisis go to waste. And if businesses can make profit off it, doesn't matter if half the population die, the profit will always come ahead. Every single time. You know, I am left-leaning. I remember growing up seeing the right being a bunch of authoritarian dickheads, shitting over gay people for the fact that they existed, treating women like fucking house slaves, house elves, and nothing more. You know, getting involved in the bedroom, telling people what they can and can't do between consenting adults. That's what I remember the right being. And the fact is, I've watched some rightist content recently, and they basically said, well, if a woman doesn't want a child, she shouldn't have sex. Yeah, apparently a child is punishment. A child should grow up in a household that doesn't want it as punishment for the woman's sinful actions. And that is from a semi-reasonable conservative fucking platform. So, it's still there. It hasn't gone away. The conservatives haven't suddenly become the reasonable side. The left wing have just gone fucking batshit in recent years and are acting in exactly the same way as the right did back in the 90s and further on. Because they're the one with the social power now. The right used to have the social power, but the left now has the social power. That's why they've become dogmatic, authoritarian dickheads that are forcing their way into every facet of your lives. And if you don't do what they say, you are an evil fucking, like all the evils, all the most gross, horrible person in the world. You're morally repugnant because you're not following what these overall arcing authoritarian people say. They're exactly the same. You know, exactly the same. My values haven't changed. My values have not changed. They've been refined, but they haven't changed. The left has changed. As a platform, as a group. Individual leftists haven't. Because I've spoken to many of them who agree with me. You know, many of which are now called right-wingers. They're not right-wingers. I've never understood, never let other people dictate your political leaning. Never let that happen. No, I'm not right-wing. Being called right-wing isn't an insult. I'm just not. You might think it's an insult, just like they may think calling someone a fucking lefty is an insult, but it's not. That just shows how entrenched they are to their fucking tribe. Ugh. But this has gone on way longer than I intended. I just intended to do it whilst I was doing my beard. But, no. I hope Elon Musk acquires Twitter. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not worshipping the guy or anything, but I would hope that under his control, at least, it would become the world's first true free speech platform. Now, if they start fucking banning people because they have certain left-wing viewpoints or certain far left-wing viewpoints, like suck the dick bigot or shit like that, I'm joking, partly. then they'll be just as bad, and I will be speaking out against it then. That's the difference. A bunch of people will be like, look, you're getting a taste of your own medicine. That's one thing I really like about Marcus Meekin, Count Dankula. He's fucking consistent with that shit. He will defend people. He will be honest and say, yeah, there's a bit of schadenfreude with people getting exactly what they promote for and them not being happy with it. Yeah, it's called karmic fucking justice, but at the same time, you've got to speak out against it because that's what your principles are. Your principles should not change depending on who they affect. They should be global. That's one thing I really respect about Marcus Meekin is the Count Dankula, is his stance on that. So obviously there's going to be a bit of schadenfreude, but at the same time, if we just flop the other way and everything is, the far end of the left, of the right is allowed to speak, but the far end of the left isn't, no, everyone needs a fucking platform. So if he takes over and some positive changes start to happen, and I don't have to walk on fucking eggshells with a gun squad in front of me at every fucking step of the way, I will be happy. Even if it means I get dogpiled for my opinions, the fact that I'm allowed to say them without being silenced, without being banned, without having my name dragged through the fucking dirt, I'll be happy. Free speech platform. Those were the days. Those were the fucking days. Here's hoping that's what it comes to. Of course, the way he's speaking, I can see him monetizing it and making people pay for it. At which point, I'm not paying for Twitter. If Facebook started to, or YouTube started to make me pay to use it, I'd just leave. So, yeah. Anywho, this has been a much longer video than I intended, but this is me. That's what I'm always like. So, bye for now.